thecars.com.
The semi-successful summit in Moscow and the deal they did make on arms control.
It is the first permanent U.S.-Russia military operation ever.
The tactics proposed for a new war on terrorism, fewer restrictions on the FBI and the CIA.
Our message is basically that the threat of terrorism is increasing.
And the trouble a taste for herbal tea can lead to. In California, kava can get you arrested for DUI.
He could not safely operate a motor vehicle.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. Some disagreement, but not widespread disappointment at the U.S.-Russia summit in Moscow this weekend. The primary topic of discussion, a nuclear missile defense system for the United States. President Clinton tried to convince Russian President Vladimir Putin of the value of such a system. Putin was not convinced, but the two men did find some common ground. NBC's John Palmer is traveling with the president.
Presidents Clinton and Putin ended their weekend summit tonight, agreeing that the world faces an emerging missile threat from so-called rogue states, but they failed to agree on how to defend against it. Later at the Kremlin, Mr. Clinton indicated they had agreed to disagree on this issue.
We acknowledge that there is a threat. It needs to be met, and we're trying to bridge our differences, and I think that's where we ought to leave it.
For his part, President Putin opposes any change in the anti-ballistic missile treaty, saying that could upset the nuclear balance of power.
We're against having a cure that is worse than the disease.
The presidents did agree on two lesser arms control measures: the disposal of 34 tons of excess weapons-grade plutonium each, and establishing a joint early warning center to guard against false reports of missile launches.
This is terribly important. It is the first permanent U.S.-Russia military operation ever.
At one point, the two presidents strolled through the Kremlin. And while Mr. Clinton's new relationship with Putin is not what it was with former President Boris Yeltsin, the Russian president referred to Mr. Clinton today as a pleasant partner in negotiations. A few blocks away, a small group of demonstrators gathered in front of the American embassy, protesting the U.S. proposal for a nuclear missile defense system. Later appearing on a Moscow radio call-in show, Mr. Clinton vigorously defended the idea, while rejecting an alternative proposal by Putin as taking too long to deploy.
We expect to face this threat in the United States within 5 years, and we think the other technology for the limited national missile defense will be available within that time.
Tonight on Russian television, evidence of Russia's post-Cold War freedoms. The two presidents were the subject of some political satire on a puppet show. President Putin, former head of the KGB, the Russian secret police, was shown trying to recruit President Clinton as a spy for the Kremlin. President Clinton ends his visit here tomorrow with an address to the Russian parliament, where he'll praise President Putin for his economic and political reforms, while warning that democracy in Russia remains fragile and incomplete. John Palmer, NBC News, Moscow.
America's military policy is shaping up as a key issue in this year's presidential race. NBC's Jonathan Alter on where the leading candidates stand.
National defense, one of those issues where the candidates are far apart.
The classic security agenda is still with us.
The Cold War era is history.
Bush, flanked by policymakers of the past, is embracing a Reagan-era idea that was never adopted. Deep cuts in nuclear missiles and the deployment of a nuclear shield estimated to cost more than $150 billion.
Liftoff.
If it works.
The United States has an opportunity to lead to a safer world, both to defend against nuclear threats and reduce nuclear tensions. It is possible to build a missile defense and diffuse confrontation with Russia. America should do both.
Like President Clinton, Al Gore favors a less costly missile defense, about a third of the price of the Bush plan. And he argues that building a shield would lead to instability.
The Russians have made clear that their response to a comprehensive U.S. defense defensive system would be to halt arms control and increase the numbers of their offensive nuclear weapons.
Gore's plan would amend the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty with the Russians. Bush would terminate the treaty and lift restrictions on defensive weapons. As for the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, designed to keep down membership in the nuclear club, Gore favors ratifying it. Bush, citing verification issues, does not. And Gore would open the door to more peacekeeping missions by the military. Bush favors military intervention only when the vital interests of the United States are at stake. Gore is widely viewed as more knowledgeable about national security, while Bush has the more experienced team of advisors, including his father. Each man will try to deploy defense policy to show voters he has the stature for the job. Jonathan Alter, NBC News, New York.
Now to another national security issue, terrorism and how to respond to it. A panel appointed by Congress proposes, among other things, increasing the power of the military, the CIA, and the FBI. But how much power is too much? NBC's Joe Johns has our report.
After the bombings of 2 U.S. embassies in East Africa 2 years ago, Congress formed a commission to study international terrorism. The panel's report, due out tomorrow, calls for major changes in the way the federal government prepares for and responds to terrorist attacks.
Our message is basically that the threat of terrorism is increasing, and that means the government needs to be more aggressive in trying to prevent terrorist attacks against Americans.
Among the commission's recommendations, a system to monitor foreign students in the United States to reduce the risk of terrorist activity, develop plans to give the U.S. military, not civilians, lead authority if necessary in the event of a catastrophic terrorist attack, and rescind CIA regulations on recruiting informants who may have been involved in human rights violations. The report also calls for keeping diplomatic pressure on Iran until it cooperates fully in the investigation of a bombing in Saudi Arabia 4 years ago that killed 19 U.S. servicemen. The commission recommends the hard line, even though Iran's government now has a reformist president who has made conciliatory gestures toward the United States. Critics of the report opened fire immediately.
The report seems willing to throw out the most basic safeguards for the rights of Americans and others in the fight against terrorism. It seems that it no longer is striking the proper balance between the rights of us all and the need to defend against terrorist threats.
The threat of terrorism in the world today is real, but we should not allow that threat, no matter how real, to change what are our basic constitutional guarantees in this country.
But the commission cited the World Trade Center bombing as proof that existing controls are not enough to stop international terrorists. The report says the Constitution permits extraordinary measures in the face of extraordinary threats, but congressional critics and others are already prepared to argue the recommendations go too far. Joe Johns, NBC News, the Capitol.
When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, a problem solved in space. A problem still unresolved, now resting in U.S. coastal waters. And later in focus, what isn't happening despite $1 billion investment by taxpayers?
I am looking for a house, for a duplex,
for a Cape Cod. I'm looking for a ranch, a colonial. I am looking for
a place
on the coast,
in the mountains,
with a fenced yard,
close to the park, where I can
be myself.
Everybody's looking for something different in a home. Now there's only one place they have to look. ColdwellBanker.com.
I am looking for a castle
right smack in the heart of God's country.
ColdwellBanker.com. When you need an address, try ours.
I see lots of people with allergies, but the ones with multi-symptom nasal allergies, they're suffering from it all. The sneezing, itchy, runny nose, the nasal congestion. For that kind of allergy, I prescribe multi-symptom Flonase.
Flonase nasal spray once a day relieves nasal allergy symptoms all day and night.
All it takes is Flonase.
The #1 prescribed nasal allergy spray. Even kids as young as 4 can use Flonase. For best results, use daily. If side effects occur, they are generally mild and may include headache, nosebleed, or sore throat. Call to learn more. Ask your doctor about multi-symptom Flonase.
When you get it all it takes is Flonase.
A successful suicide mission of sorts for NASA this morning. The Compton Gamma Ray Observatory was deliberately brought back to Earth, falling harmlessly into the Pacific Ocean just as engineers had planned it. The 17-ton satellite had been in orbit for 9 years, providing an unprecedented view of the universe. Mechanical problems raised concerns that a controlled re-entry might not be possible much longer. To Florida now, the current resting place of a load of incinerator ash, which has been sailing from port to port since the 1980s. NBC's Kerry Sanders on the cargo nobody wants.
On an out-of-the-way canal along Florida's east coast, crews transferring garbage. The tons of incinerated ash, all under the watchful eye of environmental police. The surveillance to make sure this load is not dumped in Florida.
Want to make sure that it doesn't get sloppy, that there's no accidents.
This load has been rejected by several states and at least a half-dozen countries. It's tons of household garbage incinerated in Philadelphia at a time when the city said it had no room in its landfills. And so a bulk cargo ship began a global odyssey. From Philadelphia to the Bahamas, on to Panama, then the Cape Verde Islands off the coast of West Africa, to Singapore, to Yugoslavia. After a while, rejecting the ash became the thing to do, even though U.S. government tests show it is non-toxic and safe to bury.
There's a stigma attached to it because it's the infamous incinerator ash from Philadelphia from 14 years, and it has been rejected from other countries, so I think that's people have this idea that it must be something wrong with it.
This load of ash, what's left of 14,000 tons. In 1987, the captain hauling it testified he was ordered to dump 10,000 tons overboard, some of it in the Indian Ocean, some of it in the Atlantic. This footage from the environmental group Greenpeace shows some of the ash being offloaded in Haiti later that year. Here, an employee trying to illustrate it is not dangerous tastes some.
This is how worried I am of its toxicity. That's how worried I am of the toxicity.
The garbage sat in Haiti for more than a decade. Finally, officials there decided it should become someone else's problem. Waste Management Incorporated inherited the job. Company officials won't comment, but there are reports that a plan to dump the cargo somewhere in Louisiana is in the works.
Finally, the ash is off the beaches of Haiti and back in U.S. waters. So from that point of view, it's a tremendous victory.
And tonight, it sits in Florida. It's traveled more than 30,000 miles, but it still has no final place to go. Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Martin County, Florida.
In New York City today, fans began saying farewell to legendary band leader Tito Puente, considered the inventor of the Latin sound. The line for those wishing to view his body at a local chapel stretched for more than a city block. Puente died Wednesday of complications from heart surgery. He was 77. Funeral services Tuesday will be private, but the hearse will drive through New York's barrio in a final salute. When NBC Nightly News continues, a peace dividend which has yet to pay off.
Do you need a new car? Do you need to see the ocean? Is watching a sunset absolutely necessary? Introducing the all-new, redesigned Avalon, the most spacious, most luxurious sedan we've ever created. Do you need a new car?
In this place, I see a lot of gas. I also see a lot of folks taking medicines that don't fight gas. But Gas-X has the most powerful medicine to relieve gas fast. Nothing I've seen works faster. Gas-X beats the bloat fast.
My dry, itchy skin would flare up. I just wanted to hide.
Cordate helps heal and protect dry, itchy skin fast with maximum strength medicine and special moisturizers.
My skin was healed.
First aid, fast aid, Cordate.
Fish and chips, spray and wash. Rough and tumble, spray and wash. Spray and Wash gets out what America gets into. Now there's a new and improved Spray and Wash. Spray and Wash is better than Shout at getting out greasy food stains like butter, hamburger grease, bacon, and more. New Spray and Wash. keeping America clean and spotless.
Monday, a special event, remarkable heroes, untold stories, the opening of the National D-Day Museum. Tom Brokaw with his tribute, NBC Nightly News Monday.
In focus this evening, problems with a plan to convert closed military bases to civilian use. NBC's Dan Lothian has our report.
Military bases, once the backbone of America's war machine, now many in retirement. Decaying buildings, overgrown airfields, unguarded front gates, and hidden dangers in the soil, in the air, still lingering years after tax dollars were supposed to clean it all up.
We're wasting millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Back in 1983, when the Department of Defense, the DoD, began closing surplus military bases, the idea was to save federal tax dollars by turning the land, prime real estate, over to local governments. However,
the ability to transition these bases has been very painful.
Especially in California, 12 military bases shut down at least 10 years ago were found to be heavily contaminated with the chemical residues of war. Even though the DoD has spent $1.6 billion on cleanup, those bases still have not been fully converted to local communities because they're still polluted.
They have not just traditional hazardous waste problems that you see at private sites, but they also have radiation, unexploded ordnance kinds of sites.
I think there was a belief that you could immediately turn a surplus Navy base, Army base, Air Force base immediately into something else, and you can't.
For local communities, dreams of housing developments, business districts, entertainment centers on hold for more than a decade. So, what's the problem? There's disagreement over how to clean up the bases, what should be done with the facilities, and who should bear the bulk of the financial burden, the Department of Defense or local governments. Example, Hunters Point Naval Shipyard on scenic San Francisco Bay. $152 million spent on cleanup so far. But the DoD and the city can't agree on how much more is needed to finish the job. So Hunters Point just sits.
The problem isn't that we're spending money on the cleanup. The problem is that we're not spending money efficiently and appropriately on the cleanup.
Cleanup started on some of the other bases, but millions were spent on environmental studies, which sometimes had to be repeated, something the Environmental Protection Agency defends.
If you don't spend enough time in studies, what happens is you either don't do a good enough cleanup or you have to come back and do the cleanup again.
Paul Yaroshak with the Department of Navy says another $2 billion is needed to finish California's cleanup project.
Could we do things better? I wouldn't say there's any missteps, but I certainly think we can do things better. And I think we can do things quicker, and we're learning how to do that.
But critics say the longer these contaminated bases sit, the bigger the problem, supporting a growing feeling that building up for battle was easier than cleaning up after war. Dan Lothian, NBC News, San Francisco.
When we continue, driving under the influence of tea.
Some nights, falling asleep is the most elusive thing on earth. No matter how hard you try, you can't capture it. Now, you can capture the sleep you need when you need it with Sonata. Like other sleep aids, you can take Sonata at bedtime. But Sonata is the first and only prescription sleep aid you can take later if you have at least 4 hours in bed before becoming active again. You'll fall asleep fast and still wake up naturally, ready to start your day. Until you know how you will react to Sonata, you should not drive or operate machinery. Common side effects are headache, dizziness, and drowsiness. Do not drink alcohol while taking Sonata. Patients who abuse prescription sleep aids may become dependent. Prescription sleep aids are most often taken for 7 to 10 days as needed. Your doctor will advise you about taking them longer. Ask your doctor about your sleep problem and how Sonata can help. Capture the sleep you need when you need it with Sonata.
Cold stuff kill you? Then try new Colgate Sensitive Maximum Strength. It's clinically proven to provide significantly more pain relief than Sensodyne, so you don't have to be afraid of anything. New Colgate Sensitive.
This has more calcium than Tums?
It's true. Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewables have more calcium than regular Tums.
That's even better.
And they dissolve faster than Tums.
I'm gonna go for the Maalox.
Quick Dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
No doubt about it.
There are lots of tempting computers out there, so how do you choose? This one looks appetizing, but does it include internet service? This one looks good, but does it come with a free color printer? Now, a Gateway Essential PC comes with an Intel Celeron processor, a year of AOL included, and a free Canon printer, all for just $28 a month. So, come and get it. Call 1-800-GATEWAY now and make no payments for 3 months.
On an all-new Dateline Monday, unmarried. They moved in together because they were in love. But does that make them criminals?
I was shocked. I just couldn't believe what I was reading.
An obscure law says they are. Now they're going to court. But wait until you see who filed the charges. An all-new Dateline Monday, 8/7 Central on NBC.
Kava tea, a popular beverage made from the powdered roots of a plant found only in the South Pacific. A natural substance widely available in health food stores. But as NBC's Hillary Lane reports, consuming too much of it can have unanticipated consequences.
The Kava Circle, a traditional tea ceremony in the South Seas, carried to this country by immigrants like Tofui Putau of Tonga. His problems began last August on his drive home from a church event where he sipped Kava tea for about 6 hours. A police officer pulled him over, citing him for weaving between lanes.
He said I was a little bit shaky, and he said, that's why we're going to book you for that.
After 9 months of research into the properties of Kava tea, prosecutors charged Putau with driving under the influence.
His field sobriety test will show that he could not safely operate a motor vehicle based on a significant ingestion of the kava root.
Among herbalists, kava is seen as a natural alternative to prescription stress relievers. It's widely available in health food stores in tea form or as an extract. Herbalists admit it's difficult to tell how much kava is in the various products, which makes it hard to judge how much it takes to affect a person's judgment. But the American Botanical Council says kava may adversely affect a person's motor reflexes and judgment for driving. And under California law, anything that impairs driving can warrant a driving under the influence violation. A kava drinker was convicted of DUI in Utah in 1996. Putau's attorney says if drinking too much tea is the charge this time, what's next?
This is not a drug or an alcohol. They could do the same thing with chocolate or sleepy time tea.
The Eastern tradition of drinking kava will face the Western judicial system in a California court later this month. Hillary Lane, NBC News.
In New York City today, an impromptu joint appearance by two political rivals. At the annual Salute to Israel parade, Democratic Senate candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton and Republican Senate candidate Rick Lazio shared the same stage and even posed for photographers. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, going to great heights to grab Olympic gold.
My name's Bob.
Tim.
Karen.
I'm quitting smoking.
With Nicorette.
Nicorette gives me 2 ways to help control my cravings.
First, I help prevent them.
You see, I set myself up on a regular schedule. 6 pieces a day.
9.
12.
Do you know when you just get that craving anyway? Late for a gig, rough crowd. I take another piece to help take control.
And now, after smoking for 20 years,
I'm finally gonna make it.
I'm sticking with it.
I'm gonna do it.
You can do it. Nicorette can help.
My dry, itchy skin would flare up. I just wanted to hide.
Cordate helps heal and protect dry, itchy skin fast with maximum strength medicine and special moisturizers.
My skin was healed.
First aid, fast aid, Cordate.
Happy family, happy browsing. Find everything housing. Everything housing. Call WorldBanker.com. Online. Happy family, happy browsing. Find everything housing. Happy family, happy browsing. Find everything housing. Call WorldBanker.com. Online. Call WorldBanker.com. Online.
We widen the stance and tighten the turning radius. The all-new Yukon is an unusually nimble vehicle. And the first to recognize that while SUVs have gotten bigger, parking spaces have not. The surprisingly agile Yukon by GMC. Do one thing, do it well.
This week on Today, smears, semantics, scissors, living life as a lefty.
Which is why Matt will never be right.
How safe are America's national parks? NBC Nightly News this week.
Finally tonight, the story of a young athlete with a special dream who's stepping into a new Olympic arena. Here's NBC's Tracy Potts.
A triple somersault with a half twist, 20 feet in the air. Jennifer Perilla is preparing to become a champion.
This is the pipe.
Is this the pipe? Is this the first time you've ever done this on training?
First time ever.
At the age of 5, she shocked her parents by flying across the living room sofa. She's been soaring ever since.
It's the closest thing to flying. Definitely is. And then also being able to have that control and be very, very precise. That's what I love about that.
Lift.
Now 19, Perilla has qualified to compete in an event new to the Olympics this year, trampoline. Among a dozen competitors from around the world, she will be the youngest and the only American. Trampoline is not a new sport. Competition started back in 1964. But here in the U.S., the problem is it's not very popular. So athletes like Jennifer have a hard time finding competition.
Inside the box.
It's taken decades for trampolinists to get the Olympic world to recognize their sport. Many still consider it a backyard activity. In the 70s, safety and liability concerns prompted many schools and gyms to remove trampolines. But today they're back, larger and safer, even as athletes bounce up to 30 feet into the air. Perilla is ranked 4th in the world. Only the top 3 win medals at the Olympics.
Now, for me to catch up, I need to up my difficulty. I need to add maybe 1 or 2 more skills that are a little bit harder, which will probably be a triffus, which is a triple front half twist on the last flip.
A triffus is one of the most difficult moves to perform. Perilla has been called fearless, gutsy, but not single-minded.
She can be extremely aggressive in a competition, and then with the athlete that she's neck and neck with, they go out partying together that night.
What if I did like trampoline and then it's like football?
But for the next few months, being a normal teenager will be put on hold as she focuses on Sydney and works to perfect the 20-second routines which could make her golden dreams come true.
When I'm laying down in my bed at night, I picture my routines. And lucky for me, I've learned how to be a very good, I can picture my routines very well. Every time I do them, they are perfect. And I've been lucky to have that.
Tracy Potts, NBC News, Lake Forest, California.
And Jennifer Perilla will be with Katie and Matt this coming Wednesday, performing live on the Plaza on Today. Well, that's NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. Thanks for watching. I'll see you at 9 tonight on MSNBC on cable with a special report on America's fascination with roller coasters. And this reminder, Tom Brokaw reports tomorrow from New Orleans at the opening of the National D-Day Museum. I'm John Siegenthaler in New York, and for all of us at NBC News, good night.
NBC News, America's news leader.
In business, knowing what's going to happen before anyone else isn't ESP, it's CNBC. Profit from it.
Why do warehouse clubs and superstores usually have the